And the correct answer is lumber. I thought that it was, but it's been a while since I've been through some of these. So lumber is the correct answer. I wanted to make sure I'm giving you the correct answers because we'd have to go through all of the slides before I could get there. So, all right. Number two, a freehold estate is it one acquired without paying anything? Any leasehold estate? Any estate wherein one may use the property as he wishes? Or an estate of uncertain duration? So a freehold estate, again, remember, freehold estate, it could go on forever. Remember, non-freehold estate, which is like a lease, there's a definite time that it could end. So a freehold estate is one acquired without paying anything. Any leasehold, well, we know that's wrong because a leasehold's a non-freehold, and so can't be that. Any estate wherein one may use the property as he wishes, or an estate of uncertain duration. Now, one of the things you have to understand when you're doing the test is you could argue that, well, someone could give you real estate, but of the four choices here, which one is the best choice? A freehold estate can go on forever. It's an estate of uncertain duration. So, one of the things that I think people are really having trouble with the exam is that they're trying to draw too much into the questions. And what you really have to do is look at the test and you have to ask yourself which question fits, which answer fits the best. And that was the correct answer, was an estate could go on for a long, for an undetermined amount of time. Now, if you're new and you haven't gotten this far on the test, that's okay. Just make some notes, as we go through some of this. Number three, Jeannie Davis has some rights to use land, but not all possessory rights. Jeannie is said to have, well, if she doesn't have all of the rights to possess the property, she wouldn't have an estate in land. She wouldn't have a life estate because remember, a life estate she has the right to possess, and a tenancy in common would fall under that category. But if she has the rights to use the land, but not all interest, she has an interest, but not all possessory rights, she has an interest. Because if you had an estate, you have the right to possess the property. If you had a life estate, you have the right to possess, sell, all the stuff. If you have a tenancy in common, remember that's just co-ownership. So you have the right to possess the property, but it would be interest. All right. Larry Carlton receives title to land by virtue of having used land occupied for a certain period of time without actually paying for the previous owner for it. Larry will receive title by, so Larry receives title to land by virtue of having used and occupied. Now, again, some of you may be early in the course and you haven't gotten to this section yet. But if you use and occupy property for a certain period of time without actually paying for it, remember you can go to court through what is called adverse possession. Will is when somebody leaves you the property. Descent is when someone dies and you're next in line to receive the property. Well, remember the key words here were used and occupied. Alienation, that's when you kind of try to distance yourself from the property. But adverse possession is when a person uses property, occupies it, and it's not theirs. They do it in a hostile manner, and they do it open and notorious and continuous for a certain period of time. Each state has an adverse possession time period. And so the correct answer for this is adverse possession. Again, Larry received title, and usually have to go to court for that, but he got that because he occupied and used the property for a certain period of time, and he never paid the owner for it. He just used the property. It's called an adverse possession. You know, we had a realtors meeting years ago, and I was the program chair for our local board. And I remember inviting the title company, and this guy came from the title company and gave a very fascinating talk. And one of the talks he gave was how they were defending a claim for property in Tennessee where some people had literally occupied that property and were staking a claim in it through adverse possession. So it does happen, and it can happen a lot. Tom Sylvie dies, leaving no will. He's said to have died. Here's where you need to know the definitions. He died intestate. Now, I'm going to just jump over here, and I think, well, I wish I can't go backwards because we'll get out of the test here. But there are some digital flashcards that you can download, and I could pull those up here. Well, anyway, I thought I could pull those up, but. All right, next question. You got to know those terms. Mary Carr owns an undivided interest in land with Terry Dixon and has the right to survivorship. Now, Mary is said to be, this is a tough one here, isn't it? So Mary owns an undivided interest in land and has the right to survivorship. Remember, tenancy in common, there's no right of survivorship. This is why you really have to know those definitions. Tenancy at will, or a tenant at will, is with leases. Joint tenancy has right of survivorship. Tenants at sufferance, again, that has to do with leases. So, now this is kind of a free question, and you're not going to see some that will be, you'll see some like this that are a little easy to go with. However, the majority of the questions are going to be wordy and challenging, but they'll use the same type of terminology, and you're going to have to go through and pick out, well, what is it? Well, because there's a right of survivorship, has to be a joint tenant. Has to be. So now let's look at this. Dower rights are rights that assure that a spouse receives a certain portion of his or her deceased spouse's estate. I have no idea what that is. A homeowner cannot lose his entire investment in his home. Husbands and wives share equally in property acquired during marriage. The correct answer is a spouse receives a certain portion of his or her estate. Number 8, a person who appears to own property but does not is said to have, that's an interesting. Well, would it be good title? I don't think so. If you appear to own property but you really don't, it wouldn't be good title. It wouldn't be a recorded evidence of title. I don't think that would be it. Would it be constructive notice? No. Constructive notice is the purpose for recording. You know, if you record a mechanics lien or you record a deed that you receive, constructive notice gives notice to the whole world that you have ownership. So it's called color of title. And this question's been seen before years ago, was seen a lot on the test. But color of title is when you have title, the color appears to be good. You know, it appears that you own property, but you really, there's a problem. There's a cloud on the title. That's what we call it. So the correct answer is color of title. Again, you appear to own property, but you really don't. And that's the problem there, color of title. Now, here's another follow-up question to that. A person who has color of title to land has the appearance of title. Forgiveness? No. A right? No. Foreign ownership? No, it's just the appearance. It appears to look good, but there's actually a problem with the title. Let's see here. I went to the wrong camera. Did I lose my, you know what? I think I unplugged my webcam. I didn't think I did that. Let's see. I sure did. So I need to go back over here. I was plugging my microphone in and let's see if that popped back up now. Okay, there we go. Now, I just wanted to come back out there and talk to you a little bit. Okay, so gotta fix my monitor a little bit. There we go. Okay, so let's just stop and talk about this for a little bit because you'll probably see some questions on deeds and a couple of the questions they love, a couple of things we talked about here that we've gone through. First of all, adverse possession. That you would have to go to court and ask the judge for the property. In other words, you would go and say, hey, I used this property open notorious for 7-8 years. Nobody's ever stopped me. Can I get the title to the property? Now, you might think that seems weird, but like in my area, if we go down toward Iron County and down toward Ellington and kind of down southwest of here, there's lots of land. Some people that will call me and want me to list their property, they will tell me, we haven't been back there for 30 years or 20 years. Well, somebody pulls a mobile home up and starts living there and puts a garden in and they stay there and cultivate the land and they can show proof that they've been on that property. They could actually claim that property, and that's through what is called adverse possession. The second thing that you need to understand here is that sometimes people have title to a property and they think that everything's okay. They think the title's good, but in reality, there's a problem. okay? And that's what we call color of title. The title appears to be good, but in reality, there's a problem. So, and that problem is called a cloud on the title. A cloud on the title. So these are things that you could see in questions, and you need to make sure that you know what is the definition for color of title and what is that, what's that problem. It's a cloud on the title. I'm going to grab a quick drink of water here. I have a light in front of me here, and I should have turned the air conditioner down because it's a bit, a little bit stuffy down here in my office. So, okay. So I'm going to go back over to the test here. All right. So now, life estate per attreve is one in which, and I know I get emails all the time from students who say, hey, you did that video, and at the very end you said it goes to the remainderman, but it was based on a third person's life. And I kind of watched the video, and I think I really explain it okay, but I kind of also understand how people can get confused with it. So I put a little note in the slide on the very next slide that said, hey, I think I may have said something wrong there. Don't be confused. And I kind of reiterate what's going on. But anyway, a life estate per attreve. That is a life. Is it a life tenant must occupy the premises and may not lease them to anyone else? The duration of the life estate is based upon the duration of the life of someone other than the life tenant. That sounds pretty good. The life tenant has died? No. The life tenant may not occupy the property himself or herself. And that's false. The correct answer is the duration of the life estate is based upon the duration of the life of someone other than the life tenant. So I want to draw this out for you because I think you need to understand this principle. So I'm going to do a new share. And I want to do, whoops, this one right here. Give me just a half a second, and you should see my iPad here. And so we are going to go into the pencil app, and I'm going to go into this little app because I like to use it, and just going to kind of draw this out for you. So here's a situation. And I thought, give me about 15 seconds here. I had that on there, but I guess it wasn't charging up. Let's try it now. Okay, so if we have a person, this is the grantor, and they own the property. So this person owns a parcel of property. Let's just say it's 40 acres. Now, they're going to grant, or sign, they're going to sign a life estate. They're going to create this life estate to A. Now, A is the owner of the life estate, or we could call them the life tenant. Okay? Now, they can they can sell, take a loan out, lease it. They can't destroy it. The destruction can't happen, but they can do any of these things because they're really the owner. They're the owner of the property now in the form of a life estate or a life tenant. They're the life tenant. Now, in the simplest form of a life estate, if whenever this person dies, it would revert back to the grantor. It just reverts back. Okay? So now you can have a situation where there is another party, B, who is the remainderman. In this case, when A dies, the property goes to the remainderman. If there's a remainderman listed or noted. Good example here is the grantor leaves the property to one child and says, if anything happens to that child, I want it to go to my other child. Does that make sense? So this is why C cannot let me try to do that. I'm writing at an angle, sorry. This is why A cannot waste the property or let it waste away, because there's somebody else that has a future interest in it if it's a remainderman, or if there's no remainderman, remember it reverts back to the grantor. Now, you could have a situation, and that's what the question we just went over, that says, what if drew that person bad. What if we had another person here and we based the life estate on C? So in this case, you grant the life estate to A, but everything's based on C's life, and when C dies, the property would either revert back to the grantor or it would go to the remainderman. Does that make sense? And a good example would be mom and dad, we're going to let our child have the property, but if anything happens to your dad, because it's based on his life, I really would like for the farm to come back to mom so that she could sell the property and have money to live on. This scenario over here is the pour à travail, I'm going to abbreviate, PAV. It's based on someone else's life, pour à travail, okay? So, know who the players are. You have a remainderman. You have a life tenant, the owner of the life estate, and you have the original grantor who created the life estate. And then sometimes you might have this third person over here whose life it's based on, and that's called pour à travail. All right? So back to our problem here, just so you can see this, how it works. A life estate, pour à travail, is one in which the duration of the life estate is based upon the duration of the life of someone other than a life tenant. Okay? If 45 feet of land was added to Mike's farm because of a river changing its course, this is an example of, well, this is just where you have to know the definitions. And again, you're going to see a few of these questions, but accretion is the slow buildup. Well, that's what's happening here. Avulsion is the sudden tearing away. Riparian rights are just your rights that you own next to a river. Interesting. I'm working on getting the course approved in Utah. By the way, we were just approved in Florida, so we should have our Florida salesperson's course up very soon. If you want to get your Florida license, I'll keep you posted. So we're excited about that. We're actually, my daughter and I are revamping the entire look and feel of the course and modules, and I'm working with a guy out of South Africa who's helping me and doing some different things with videos. I'll show you what it looks like here in just a little bit. But I'm also working to get the course approved in Utah. And I take my Utah real estate exam this Thursday. I have to take the state portion. But it's interesting. I mean, water rights are huge there. It's a big part of the state exam. And so I'm kind of excited because all these things I teach for Missouri and Oklahoma and Kansas and South Dakota and Indiana, you know, we know the basics, but it's like, it's interesting. The rights to water in Utah are really big, and there's a shortage of water, and, you know, it's interesting. So in Florida, I got all the coastal stuff I have to know. So anyway, we're getting there. But okay, so the slow buildup added is accretion. All right, number 12. As defined in real estate practices, the land of a riparian owner borders on, well, remember I say riparian R, river R. That's how I remember that. Is it a stream? Is it a water course? Is it any of the above? Uh-oh. It could be any of the above. See how you have to read all those questions carefully there? So you really have to ask yourself, you know, what is the correct answer? Well, a lot of people could maybe just see that river and jump right on it. They don't do a lot of these any of the above anymore, but I like this for our purpose tonight because, see, if you saw that and said, oh, that's it, it's a river, you missed it. So you got to read all the choices and make sure you read them 2 or 3 times, because the correct answer is any of the above. Larry King is holding title to real property in severalty. Now, severalty is single or sole ownership. So Larry would most likely have, well, would he have a life estate? I mean, you know, there again, you could sit there and try to draw too much into that. Does he have an estate for years? No, that has to do with leases. Does he have ownership in common with others? No, that would be joint ownership. So Larry has sole ownership, okay? After Nick bought an apartment, he started receiving his own property tax bills. This indicates that Nick most likely purchased into a, well, remember, with a condominium, you would pay your own taxes. You can take a mortgage out, and if you don't make your mortgage payments, you could lose your condominium. With a cooperative, if you don't pay your taxes, everybody else is going to have to pick up your tab. So Nick wouldn't be getting a tax bill in a cooperative. It would be going to the cooperative. It's like a long-term proprietary lease, stock ownership. It's not a leasehold. That that's not ownership, so tax bills wouldn't fall in with leasehold. And it's not a syndicate, because a syndicate is kind of like a limited liability. It's like a limited corporation, an limited liability company, and the company would get the tax bill, not Nick. So this is a condominium. Best description there. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to kind of come back out and tell you what's going on as we move forward, because I am going to be doing some more live streaming, and I just want to bring you up to date on a couple of things. Number 15, no one seems to own the vacant land next to Falk's house, so she has used it for a garden for many years. Falk may have a good chance of obtaining ownership by, well, it's not poaching, it's not forbearance. That's when you quit making your payments for a few months because of COVID-19. A lot of lenders allowed forbearance, or where you didn't have to make your mortgage payment. Adverse possession sounds like the right thing. It's not eminent domain because that's the government. And so it's adverse possession. We'll do one more. This is a quick one. ABC Inc. Incorporated usually owns property in severalty. Remember, a corporation is like a sole single owner, sole ownership.